At 8 years old, Donny Osmond wrote a heartbreaking letter from Sweden. Instead of comfort, his father's response was brutal and set the tone for decades of hidden pain. By his 30s, Donny was suffering from crippling anxiety that nearly ended his career. He even admitted, "I hated being me." But the most shocking revelation came in a 2025 interview when he finally confessed what really happened during those early years that shaped his entire life. Fred Silverman's decision to give Donny and Marie Osmond their own primetime variety show was unlike anything television had seen before. At the time, both were still teenagers, with Donny at 18 and Marie only 16. That made them the youngest entertainers in history to host a variety show, a record that has never been repeated. Their show premiered in January 1976 and lasted for 78 episodes until 1979, placing them in the same league as some of the most successful variety shows of that decade. What made this so unusual was the fact that primetime variety shows had always been led by seasoned stars like Carol Burnett, Sonny and Cher, or established comedians. Yet ABC was willing to risk millions of dollars on two teenagers from Utah, even granting them full creative control over a primetime slot. It was a gamble so bold that it reshaped the way networks looked at young talent and television audiences for decades to come. The producers, Sid and Marty Krofft, were brought in to shape the show, and their involvement was as surprising as the decision to hire the Osmonds in the first place. The Krofts were famous for creating H.R. Pufnstoof, a psychedelic children's program filled with surreal characters such as a witch, a talking flute, a shipwrecked boy, and a red-headed dragon in cowboy boots. They carried that same trippy imagination into prime time, building a variety show that looked more like a colorful dream than a traditional television program. The set included an ice rink stage, and Donny performed in powder blue tuxedo jumpsuits embroidered with peacock feathers. Life-size puppets, oversized costumes, and bright, exaggerated designs filled the screen, creating a spectacle that was both bizarre and unforgettable. Their unusual vision turned the clean-cut Mormon siblings into the stars of a primetime fantasy world, and audiences tuned in every week to watch. Marie's position in the show carried an especially historic weight. She still holds the record as the youngest female ever to host a national television variety show, a record that has stood for nearly 50 years. The responsibility placed on her shoulders was extraordinary. At the time the show began in January 1976, she was still technically a high school student, yet she was standing on the same stage as legendary entertainers. Over 78 episodes, she helped carry the weight of celebrity interviews, musical performances, comedy skits, and ratings that could determine the careers of hundreds of people working behind the scenes. Marie later admitted that the pressure was brutal, recalling moments when executives insulted her looks and even warned her that her performance could cost 250 people their jobs. Despite this treatment, she and Donny created a show so lasting that it was later revived as a daytime talk show in the 1990s and even returned in a Broadway Christmas version in 2010. For ABC, the decision to put Donny and Marie in prime time was more than a programming choice. It was a carefully planned attempt to capture the youth market in the mid-1970s. At the time, advertisers most wanted to reach viewers between the ages of 18 and 49, and ABC realized that younger faces could help them dominate that audience. Their strategy proved so effective that by 1997, the network was openly spending about $12 million on campaigns aimed at youth audiences, a move that reflected a formula they had already tested successfully with the Osmonds decades earlier. Competing networks were forced to rethink their own programming as ABC's youth-focused strategy began to pay off, proving that the risky decision to rely on two Mormon teenagers had changed the television landscape. As the show continued, the Krofts kept pushing the boundaries of what a variety show could look like. They introduced elaborate costumes, ice dancers, and even puppetry, blending elements from Saturday morning children's programming with primetime entertainment. Their unusual special effects and playful skits created a style that felt more like a live-action cartoon than a traditional variety show. In the second season, they pushed Marie into a new role, with famed designer Bob Mackie, transforming her from a sweet ingenue into a glamorous adult performer, while Donny continued wearing his signature powder blue tuxedos with peacock embroidery. The bold visual changes gave the show an identity unlike any other, and audiences could not look away. The pairing of Donny and Marie as co-hosts grew out of their appearance on The Mike Douglas Show in 1974. The two were brought on as guest hosts for a week, and their natural chemistry impressed executives immediately. It was not unusual for the show to take big risks, as it had allowed John Lennon and Yoko Ono to co-host in 1972. But when the Osmond siblings took their turn, their blend of Donny's teen idol charm and Marie's rising credibility in country music proved magnetic. Fred Silverman saw the potential instantly and offered them their own series, building on the already popular Osmond brand, while giving audiences something fresh with a brother-sister partnership. Marie's place on the show was made possible in part by her success with the song Paper Roses. She recorded it at just 13 years old, and it reached #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart less than a month after her 14th birthday. This made her the youngest solo artist to top that chart and gave the Osmond family the perfect counterpart to Donny's pop stardom. The song, originally a hit for Anita Bryant in 1960, reached #5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and climbed to #2 in the United Kingdom, proving Marie's appeal was international. Her ability to cross from country to pop meant the show could attract both teenage fans and more mature audiences, making her the perfect balance to Donny's image. Donny himself had already become a star long before the variety show began. Between 1971 and 1976, he scored 12 top 40 hits, with 5 of them reaching the top 10. His biggest songs included Go Away Little Girl, which went to #1, Puppy Love, which peaked at #3, and The 12th of Never, which reached #8. Much of his success came from taking proven pop songs and giving them a fresh sound for a younger generation. Magazines like Tiger Beat helped build his popularity, with editor Ann Moses playing a key role in shaping his image as a teen idol. On January 23, 1976, television history was made when Donny and Marie Osmond premiered their own show. Donny was just 18 and Marie only 16. Yet they became the youngest entertainers ever to host a variety show. The offer came from ABC president Fred Silverman, who had seen them guest host on The Mike Douglas Show. Their chemistry was so natural that it convinced the network to take a huge gamble on 2 teenagers. The time slot they were given was Friday night, which most producers considered a place where shows went to die. But Donny and Marie turned it into a must-watch event. The premiere opened with them ice skating, a dazzling and expensive production choice that no other variety show attempted every week. What made it even more unusual was the level of control they had. Their older brothers handled musical numbers. Their parents sometimes appeared on screen, and the entire program became a true family production that went against Hollywood tradition. Across 3 seasons, the show produced 78 episodes and grew into a phenomenon that few could have predicted. Mattel quickly bought the merchandising rights and released Donny and Marie dolls in 1977. The dolls were designed to hold microphones in their hands and wore colorful jumpsuits that became a signature look. By 1978, their brother Jimmy had even been added to the toy line. The show's reach went far beyond the United States. In the United Kingdom, the BBC aired it on Sunday afternoons under the name The Osmonds, which left Marie's identity in the shadows for British viewers. Behind the bright smiles and cheerful numbers, the siblings carried heavy personal struggles. Marie was secretly starving herself, trying to measure up to glamorous starlets who appeared as guests. Donny experienced his first panic attacks during this time. They kept these issues hidden for decades, keeping up an image of perfection while quietly battling pain offstage. The show was produced through a partnership between Osmond Productions and Sid and Marty Krofft. The Krofft brothers were famous for shows like H.R. Pufnstuf and Land of the Lost, known for their surreal style. Their work with the wholesome Osmonds seemed like an unlikely fit, but it gave Donny and Marie a level of creative power most teenagers could never dream of. They were executive producers on a major network program, and in 1977, they even moved the entire production from Los Angeles to Orem, Utah. The brand new George V. Osmond Studios was 104,000 square feet and became the show's new home. It was unheard of for a major network program to leave Hollywood behind, but the move allowed the family to keep control while building a new kind of production model centered on family values and independence. The variety show also laid the foundation for their future success in Las Vegas. Though originally filmed at KTLA in Los Angeles before moving to Utah, the show's mix of music, comedy, and spectacle was a perfect fit for the Vegas stage. Decades later, this format led to a return in 2008 with a residency at the MGM Grand's Hollywood Theater. What was meant to be just 8 performances grew into an 11-year run at the Flamingo Las Vegas. Between 2008 and November 9, 2019, they performed 1,330 shows. In 2014, the Flamingo even renamed its showroom the Donny and Marie Showroom in their honor. Donny has continued the tradition with a solo residency at Harrah's Las Vegas, extended through November 2025. Their influence was officially recognized at the 2015 TV Land Awards, when Donny and Marie received the Pop Culture Award. It came 36 years after their show had ended and showed how deeply their work had stayed with audiences. They had already won the TV Land Award for Favorite Singing Siblings in 2006 and had been nominated in 2005. The Pop Culture Award arrived during the height of their Las Vegas residency, when they also earned 3 Las Vegas Review-Journal Best of Las Vegas Awards in 2012 for Best Show, Best All-Around Performer, and Best Singer. Donny Osmond has often spoken about how much he regretted the way the Donny and Marie show ended. The variety program, which ran on ABC from 1976 to 1979, was one of the defining moments of his career with his sister Marie. Yet it left him with feelings of frustration more than satisfaction. Donny later admitted that he and Marie never had the chance to decide for themselves when the show would end. That decision was made for them, leaving the two as spectators in their own careers. He described it as a turning point, realizing they had given up creative control over their destiny. When the cancellation came in 1979, it set off what he called a tremendous struggle with his public image, one that would shadow him for years. The regret was not simply that the show was over, but that it ended without their consent, showing how little power even successful entertainers could have in the industry. The years that followed were difficult. Although Donny remained a talented singer, reviews noted that creative missteps in the late 1970s caused him to almost disappear from the spotlight through much of the 1980s. He admitted that his image had become embarrassing and that he was labeled as unhip. At one point, things grew so desperate that a publicist suggested he deliberately get arrested for drug possession in order to shake off his clean image. Donny recalled that he even hired the publicist who proposed the idea, who laid out a full campaign to get him busted. For someone raised in a family-friendly spotlight, the very thought showed just how out of touch he had become with what the entertainment world expected. It also showed the cold cynicism of an industry where a drug arrest was seen as a legitimate strategy to revive a career. Donny's personal values often clashed with these pressures. As a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he was constantly trying to balance his faith with what the industry demanded. Years later, in March 2010, he publicly criticized artists like Lady Gaga and Beyoncé for using profanity and sexual themes in their telephone video. His stance on same-sex marriage after California's 2008 Proposition 8 also revealed the tension he faced as he voiced opposition while trying to remain inclusive in his public image. Donny once explained that if he recorded a song by Prince, people would assume it was clean because it was him, while if Prince himself recorded it, audiences would call it dirty. That, he said, wasn't fair. It reflected both his frustration at being typecast and the limits his wholesome reputation placed on his artistic freedom. Then, in 2010, a legal battle broke out that threatened to completely shatter the image he had worked so hard to protect. That October, entertainment manager Chip Lightman filed a lawsuit in Clark County District Court, accusing Donny of being underhanded, devious, fraudulent, and greedy. Lightman, who had managed Danny Gans before working with Donny, painted a picture of a man willing to lie and manipulate for financial gain. According to the lawsuit, Donny lied directly to Flamingo Hotel representatives, spread damaging false information about Lightman in the industry, and even refused to take the stage until his demands were met. The timing was terrible. Donny and Marie had just found new success in Las Vegas, and the claims stood in stark contrast to the clean-cut image Donny had built over 6 decades. The lawsuit included claims about his supposed lavish lifestyle, accusing him of spending on exotic cars, luxury hotel suites, and private jets, all funded by those working behind the scenes. Court papers revealed that both Donny and Marie were earning a base salary of $1.6 million each, plus 40% of gross box office receipts over $250,000. On top of that, Donny received a 2-room hotel suite and limousine service, while Marie was given a $10,000 monthly housing allowance. When asked about the accusations, Donny laughed nervously and insisted he only drove a smart car and a pickup, saying those were hardly exotic. But the allegations painted a very different picture of someone chasing a lifestyle far removed from the family image he projected. The deepest sting for Lightman was not the money, but what he claimed was betrayal. He said he had rescued Donny and Marie's careers when he brought them back to the stage in April 2008 at the Flamingo Hotel, their first joint performance on the Strip in 30 years. The show was an immediate success, generating millions and restoring their place in entertainment. Yet according to the lawsuit, once the show proved profitable and was extended through October 2012, Donny began plotting to push both Lightman and the William Morris agency aside. The court documents suggested Donny waited until the show was secure before cutting out the people who had helped him succeed. Lightman later expressed his shock and disappointment, saying he hoped for an amicable resolution to what he called an unfortunate situation he never wanted to be in. The legal papers also alleged that Donny schemed during contract renewals to reduce Lightman's profits while boosting his own. One of the most serious accusations was that he tried to defraud the William Morris agency by denying them commissions due from the extended deal. When Lightman refused to take part, Donny allegedly turned against him as well. In one instance in 2010, Donny reportedly refused to go on stage until Lightman agreed to assign his rights to a company called Aldani and take a 50% pay cut. The audience was kept waiting nearly 30 minutes while Donny conducted the standoff backstage. Court filings further claimed he denied ever agreeing to extend Lightman's producer agreements and spread rumors that Lightman had been manipulating financial figures tied to his pay. In 2025, Donny Osmond sat down for an interview on Good Morning Britain and set the record straight about what it was really like to grow up a child star. At 67 years old, he corrected the host's rosy view of his early career and explained that the transition from being a teen idol to an adult entertainer was one of the hardest battles of his life. He said people didn't want to accept that he had grown up, and it was only after certain milestones that he finally gained credibility. He pointed to the release of Soldier of Love, his starring role in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and later his victory on Dancing with the Stars, as the turning points that allowed him to be seen as an adult. Only then, he admitted, did it become easier to look back and embrace the teen idol years without feeling trapped by them. The honesty in his words revealed just how much of a toll it took to be locked into a teenage image well into adulthood. By 1982, when Donny was only 25, the world had already labeled him washed up. It was a shocking fall for someone who had once ruled the charts with hits like Go Away Little Girl, which reached #1, and Puppy Love, which climbed to #3. The music industry had moved on, and even Donny admitted he felt forced to reinvent himself. He later said, "I realized I had to be someone else because Donny Osmond wasn't working for me." The situation was even more complicated because he had to keep his family-friendly Mormon image while trying to be taken seriously as an adult. Fans and record labels seemed determined to keep him in a pigeonhole, and he often compared his struggles to Justin Bieber's later battles with a teen idol image, noting that Bieber had his own rough path breaking free of it. For Donny, the financial and emotional strain of this transition was enormous, especially since record companies were hesitant to sign someone tied so closely to bubblegum pop. Behind the music and smiling television appearances, Donny's childhood was far from simple. His father, George Osmond, had grown up with an abusive stepfather and brought that military-style toughness into running the family. George even assigned his 9 children numbers instead of calling them by name. When Donny was just 8 years old and touring Sweden, he wrote a letter home begging to come back because of loneliness. Instead of comforting him, his father beat him and told him to be grateful. Donny later said he came to understand that his father wasn't perfect, but was doing his best, though he admitted he raised his own children in a very different way. At the same time, he had to navigate the complicated feelings of being the breakout star among 7 brothers, who also wanted the spotlight. Marie Osmond later admitted the family had its share of struggles, saying they had ups and downs like any other, though the truth was that fame and business made everything much harder. Donny's career began when he was just 5 years old, appearing on The Andy Williams Show in 1963. He said, "I went from an innocent child to a national television star," and admitted that his life never felt normal after that. The price of fame showed up in his 30s, when he began suffering from crippling anxiety, though he later revealed it had actually started when he was 11. The anxiety became so severe during his run in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat that he nearly couldn't perform. He later said, "I didn't have enough patience to realize, Donny, you're only human. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay." At the height of his fame, he confessed, "I hated being me." Even decades later, he described the surreal experience of using AI technology in his Las Vegas show to perform alongside his 14-year-old self, saying it felt strange to sing with a version of himself from 53 years ago. Although the Osmonds had made millions in the 1970s, the family's financial structure left them constantly under pressure. Donny revealed that he nearly had to declare bankruptcy in the 1980s. After losing almost everything. Much of the money the siblings earned went to support their parents, managers, extended family members, and a wide business operation, leaving little financial security. Donny admitted, "We went through a time when we didn't have any money. Although there was certainly a lot of love in the home, the irony was sharp. They were selling millions of records and filling arenas, but poor financial management and complex arrangements left them on the edge." It took Donny years to recover from that crash, but by determination and persistence, he eventually rebuilt his fortune to a reported $18 million. The experience, however, left him with lifelong worries about money and a perfectionist streak that sometimes made his life even harder. In 1998, Donny and Marie attempted a big comeback with a syndicated talk show produced by Dick Clark. The show featured a live house band and was broadcast nationally every morning. Expectations were sky high, but ratings were disappointing from the start. Columbia TriStar canceled it after just 2 seasons in 2000. The failure was puzzling to some, especially since the show was still receiving industry praise at the time. In fact, it earned back-to-back Daytime Emmy nominations for Outstanding Talk Show Host in 2000 and 2001, as well as 12 total nominations for directing, makeup, hairstyling, and other categories. Still, critical acclaim couldn't overcome the lack of viewers, and the show's end was a harsh reminder that television success requires more than talent. The real turning point came with Donny and Marie's 11-year Las Vegas residency at the Flamingo Hotel, starting in 2008. At first, it looked like the crowning moment of their careers. They reportedly earned a base salary of $1.6 million plus 40% of box office sales over $250,000 each. Donny lived in a luxury suite with limousine service, and Marie received a $10,000 monthly housing allowance. Yet behind the glitter, problems began to pile up. When Donny competed on Dancing with the Stars, which he won, the schedule conflicts led to tension with producers. By 2010, lawsuits surfaced, accusing him of breach of contract, fraud, and defamation. Despite the millions he was earning, court papers described him as living paycheck to paycheck, struggling with poor investments, the economic downturn, and the costs of an extravagant lifestyle. The most explosive moment came when entertainment producer Chip Lightman, who had helped bring the Osmonds to Las Vegas, sued Donny in 2010. Lightman claimed Donny cut him out of a contract extension to keep more money for himself. The lawsuit accused Donny of being underhanded, devious, fraudulent, and greedy, and even alleged that he once refused to go on stage unless Lightman accepted a 50% pay cut, delaying a performance by nearly half an hour. Lightman also accused him of lying to the Flamingo, denying agreements, and spreading false rumors. The case painted a picture that stood in sharp contrast to Donny's wholesome public image. Marie was even named in the suit, with claims that she had been aware of Donny's actions but stayed silent. By the end of their Vegas residency in 2019, Donny and Marie's relationship was deeply strained. Decades of financial struggles, creative disagreements, and the weight of their family's long history had taken a toll. Marie admitted she often felt like the ugly duckling compared to glamorous guest stars, and insiders reported the siblings were barely holding things together off stage. Their family had already lost an estimated $80 to $100 million over the years because of poor financial decisions and mismanagement. Even the glow of their Vegas triumph couldn't hide the cracks.